Hello everyone, Clara here. If you're new here, I obsess over character creation and their stories, and I share the process of their concepts and designs here for you to enjoy. Today we are breathing new life into an old concept I drew a while ago, Gerinius. It has been a very long time since I initially doodled out his old concept. The first time I sketched him out was about 2018, which is about 5 years to be precise. As you can see, some of you probably have recognized his armor and attire from the online MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV. Back when we were very much playing and enjoying Final Fantasy, we created a few fan characters and personalities. I really do miss playing that game. It was quite relaxing and there were so many things you could do to pass the time. We mostly spent our time decorating houses and exploring environments. But life got busy and we put it on hold. Hopefully, one day we can actually finish the game. We played the game for 2 years and barely got past the first expansion. We literally smelled every rose and lifted every rock. Since then, we have decided to pull those personalities from the franchise and to give them their own worlds, their own lives, their own stories. Back then, Gerinius originally was a Garlean soldier, working for a research team in the Black Shroud. He worked under the other character that we're bringing into this graphic novel, who is Almeida, a Garlean researcher. She was, anyways. These were the only two who we brought in for the first comic, as we felt they fit best with the world's type and technology level. The other handful of characters we pulled out, we will be debuting in our future second story, which will be starting at a much later date. I'm very pleased with how this bust came out when drawing an updated concept for his face. Once I did my usual color, I began to paint over top, and eventually this all became one flattened layer. I enjoyed using the highlights and shading to pop out the contours of his shoulders instead of relying on lines. I want to see if I can continue this method and replicate it for the other characters and continue to improve my technique, style, and visual appearance for the cast. I am continuing to use a softer brush for this line art, the medium diluted. So far, I am very torn between the matte, more ink type brush and the softer one you see me use right now, and I used it on my last piece for Jarvis. As a little more lore on this character, Gerinius is Solus's right-hand man, and his past has given him ample experience in infiltration and stealth. He wears tight-fitting light armor with metal slat bracers on his forearm and upper arms for light defense and deflections to protect his person. His main weapon is the twin blades, used for swift, decisive strikes and agile movement. Within the layers of his attire, he has more blades and gadgets at his disposal, and an antique gun which I did not concept yet for this piece. Both Gerinius and Solus work for the Emperor of Bruul, Arcturus. Bruul is a militaristic city, vying for control of the other two nations trapped within the Stillwall. The other two nations, Torglan and Zelvia, are able to keep in step with Bruul, always keeping them out of reach for war or being conquered. That being said, tensions between the three nations bounce between neutral to tentative to precarious. Yet, the lack of resources within the confined area causes them to rely on each other for their imports and exports. Bruul continues to skirt temporary alliances and agreements by sending talons of Lightsworn into the neighboring nations of Torglan and Zelvia, spreading propaganda and control in an attempt to tip the scales in his favor. Talented magic users disappear, never to be seen again or re-emerge bearing the Bruulian crest on their person. Gerinius and Solus are first introduced into the story, surveying Torglan and bringing negotiations to Grand Duke Thuron Dalton. The negotiations go as well as one would expect between the tense nations. Eventually, they depart from the Dalton estate to begin their true task of getting to the bottom of finding the Witch of Torglan. For this piece, I felt like I stepped back a bit in my progress for this concept. The super awesome bust greatly outshines my attempt here, but I think that just shows how often I draw simple busts and avoided the more challenging posed, bodied pictures. Not only that, but I'm sure the 102 fever I had during this time helped. I felt like a walking corpse and all I wanted to do was lay down and die. But the show must go on. As I create and edit this video, I feel great fatigue and exhaustions, so I'm not quite sure what my lovely boys brought home from school. Thankfully, we tested negative for COVID, so it was probably a nasty flu or RSV floating around. I can't wait to see what they bring when winter break ends next year. Woo! Feverishly delirious, I'm sure, but I still push forward with the piece, going back with the intense shadows for effect. I actually quite like them, and pull inspiration from the really well-rendered manga drawings. I love how they can change the mood or atmosphere of a scene, even if the lighting in the environment is not logically accurate. I feel the type of exaggerated stylization brings more flavor to the scene, and I look forward to doing it as well and seeing how it will look once I put my own style and spin on it. In the end, I decided to not fully render his metal slats on his arm, as he is a stealth character and bright flashy things would probably get him caught. With this thought in mind, the next concept of Gerinius, I'll be wrapping his metal slat arm guards in a layered cloth. Not only to cover up the glinting metal, but to provide him with more fabric to hide his extra knives and gadgets in. I will also change the design of his metal bits and pieces to be of a dull, non-reflective metal of a darker shade, to complement his attire and stealth. As I continue to dabble and experiment with shades, colors, lines, brushes, I feel myself getting a step closer each time to a place I want to be with my style. I'm almost about 4 months in since I've decided to take my art seriously and begin preparations for creating the comic. I feel the improvements as I proceed, even if they are small, and I can tell my technique is getting better since when I first began this journey in August. It has been a wild ride, from mustering the courage to start my social media channels, to putting my art out there, to learning social media, to put expectations on myself and accountability, to pursue not only my YouTube journey, but the creation of a world and bringing it to life. I have learned a lot, and yet I feel I have not even began to touch the tip of the iceberg and everything I need to learn and improve. I'm excited for the new year, and I hope you are too. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Stick around if you want to see more character and world building with concepts and lore, and me rambling about YouTube and social media. Have a lovely week, and I'll see you in the next one.